It is the Behind the Book online sports show, live from the Mirage Facebook page and the Mirage Sportsbook here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Gil Alexander, host of the Beating the Book podcast, alongside Jay Rude, VP, Race and Sportsbook at MGM Resorts International. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing great. College football, pro football, we're going to do 3 games each, and college football is spectacular this weekend.
It is. I mean, we have a lot of undefeateds going up against each other, so this is the week about the O must go for somebody.
The O must go. Let's start Friday night in college football. Stanford at Washington. When we last left Stanford, we were talking about how if they beat UCLA, they not only had their eyes set on the Pac-12 championship, but maybe something beyond that. They get a really lucky cover last week, but now, not so fast. They have to go to UW. This is the first time in about 15 years that UW has reached this kind of national prominence. What's the action look like on this game?
This game is a little light so far, but I think it's going to be a great nightcap game. It's going to be a game that I think a lot of people that got to the window with Stanford are going to come right back on them. I think, bettors like luck, and they got some luck last week, so I think they're going to look to maybe come back on them. Like you said, UW's been out of the spotlight for a while. The bettors that played them last week, because that game went from 13.5 to 14, they didn't get there. They won by 7. So, I think the bettors haven't embraced this Washington team yet. So I think they're going to go with the tried and true Stanford.
Bettors not only like luck, they almost forget that they had luck when they win. It's sort of a confirmation bias, isn't
Absolutely. Everybody only remembers the bad beats.
That's right. That's bad luck, but there's no such thing as good luck. It's them and their handicapping. That's a Friday night game, Stanford and Washington. Stanford converting third downs at 49% rate this year on offense thus far. You would think that that's something that is unsustainable, and Washington's defense, as physical as Stanford is, Washington's defense, at least physical, kind of matches up nicely against that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people probably, like you said, the East Coast people haven't had a chance to really see many of these teams because they play on the West Coast and they play late. So I think, that kind of insight is going to, maybe drive a little bit of wagering, on this game, because it should be a great matchup.
I say all that and then bet against Stanford at your own risk, of course. Saturday, great game, Big Ten. Michigan hosting Wisconsin, both teams 4-0. Wisconsin's defense is every bit as good as it always has been, at least against the run. They are holding opponents since the beginning of last season to 0.9 points per drive. That's the best in FBS. Held Michigan State to 75 yards rushing, Jay. Held Leonard Fournette of LSU in check. But you really wonder in this game, Michigan favored by 10.5.
Yes.
How is Wisconsin going to score against that Michigan D with a quarterback in Alex Hornibrook, who I guess looked good in his first game last week, but it was just kind of serviceable. I'm not sure they're scaring Michigan's defense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of people were really shocked by the game last week because the public was going against Wisconsin and the wise guys were betting them. So that was one of those games where the public can't figure out why the line is doing what it's doing.
Right.
So this is another game, I think, where the public is going to be all over the team that scores 52 points a game, Michigan. So I think Wisconsin is one of those ones that Wisconsin's never a sexy pick with the public. They're always like, they're the team that you throw on the parlay because, wow, they're Wisconsin, they might get there,
right.
But they're not a team that people circle that game and go, this is the game I want to watch this week. But Michigan is, so this will be a great matchup of, wills, I think. And Wisconsin's going to come in and, being a bookmaker, I like having those 10 points in this particular matchup because I think it's going to be a little more defensive in nature than most people think.
Yeah, 10 and a hook as you have it right now. Michigan, as you mentioned, 45 points at least. They've scored at least 45 points in each of their first 4 games. Totally different thing going up against Wisconsin. We'll see how it plays out in Ann Arbor on Saturday. And of course, Michigan's defense, #1 on third downs thus far this season. So that's another thing for Wisconsin to have to overcome. The game, though, of the college football weekend.
Yes.
Unbelievable matchup between Louisville and Clemson. This is at Death Valley. Now, you and I have talked about Lamar Jackson of Louisville almost every week that we've done this show so far.
Yes.
And you famously said you need him to get a high ankle sprain for your Heisman liability.
Right.
He's looked great. The Louisville defense, somewhat overlooked, has looked great. They've been in the opponent's backfield all season, 34 tackles behind the line of scrimmage, 15 sacks. But this Louisville team has beaten the likes of Marshall and Charlotte. They beat FSU, granted, but it was at home.
At home.
Now it's Death Valley. Totally different thing.
Totally different. I mean, all the pomp and circumstances. We were talking about this. That's a game that usually goes off in the evenings, and you're waiting for it. And they get on the bus, they drive it down 50 yards, they run down the hill, they touch the rock. I mean, great college environment.
Too much for you.
Too much for me. Let's just get the game started. But no, I mean, and we were discussing Clemson is almost identical to the team that they were last year. Yet, everyone has a different feel on them this year. They're not the team of the moment. Louisville is. Louisville is the team of the moment. Everyone thinks that they got the Heisman hopeful. They've got the undefeated. They've got the high flying offense. So they've sort of supplanted Clemson. But this Saturday, that story could change, and we'll see. And I think the bettors are going to be torn in this game because they know what Clemson's capable of. They just haven't, come to the window on Clemson that strong this year, and they will be, behind the offense. So I think Louisville is probably going to get a lot of the action. It already has. It's gone from 1.5 Clemson to 2 Louisville already.
Well, even before that, I mean, let's even expand that further. During the off season, during the summertime, there are some folks who post lines in the summertime. And at that time, Clemson was a 10-point favorite in this game. When it opened, not with you, but when it opened here, it was 3.5 in favor of Clemson. You opened it at -1.5 in favor of Clemson, and now Louisville -2.
Right, you're talking about 2-touchdown swing. That's a big swing.
Wow, and it's for all the reasons we state. The perception is what it is. Clemson's defense holding opponents to 2.6 yards per rush, though. It'll be interesting to see Louisville for the first time, if they face some adversity in game, how they're going to react. And Jay, I think you said the key to it all, and I was going to actually lead with this, which is we remember Deshaun Watson and Clemson last year getting to the national title game, fabulous plays, really high-powered offense, and to our eye, it just doesn't seem that way, but you point out the stats are virtually the same.
Virtually the same. I mean, he has 9 touchdowns. He's got 5 picks. I mean, their offense it's nearly identical to what they were last year, but like I said, it just doesn't feel the same.
Interesting. Keep that in mind as you try to bet on that one. Again, Louisville favored by 2 at Clemson, Death Valley. That game on Saturday night. Let's go to the pros. London game, Jay.
London calling.
London calling, the first of 3 NFL games in London this year. This is Indianapolis, technically at Jacksonville. Jacksonville very used to going to London. This is their 4th time. First time for the Colts. Might be a little bit of a travel issue with them. Get their body clock straight. My question to you about this game is, it's at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 a.m. Pacific on Sunday. Is this the lowest handle you will have, and is that the case every time with a London game?
Generally, yes. I mean, I got to get up pretty early on Sunday. It's not fun to have to be here for that. But those games, we make sure that everyone is very aware of that on Saturday night. We try and let everyone know, hey, it's going to be an early start. Get that action in, the night before. So, it'll be a lightly bet game. I mean, mainly because it's Jacksonville as well. So they're not usually hammering down on the Jacksonville Jaguars.
They've played 14 games in London. The average total in those games is just shy of 50 points. If you throw out the first game that they played back in 2007, it's just shy of 52 points. I look up at the board, though. You guys are smart. You have it right there.
49.5.
Yeah, 49.5. Can't get one over them. Second game we want to talk about. I'm sorry.
No. I just the field over there has always been a sort of a home field advantage. What is it? Who is it? There's really not an advantage for either one of the teams usually. It's more of an exhibition. So that's one of the factors you got to really factor into as well. And the pitch, a little bit different pitch, because it's for soccer over there. But and there's been issues with it in the past, but I think it's neutralized at this point.
And the NFL, by the way, won't allow betting on the game there. Usually they have kiosks at Wembley where the Brits are so used to betting, they don't allow it. The NFL won't allow it for this game.
Yeah, but right across the street they will.
Right across the street. What a world that is. Second game we want to talk about in the NFL, we'll look up at the board right now. Broncos, 3-point favorites at Tampa. Broncos, Super Bowl champions, Jay, 3-0. And everyone I talk to loves the Bucs. What's going on there?
Well, 3-0, laying a field goal with a team that hasn't had much success in the postseason lately. A little bit, we were talking earlier, a little bit of disrespect for the Broncos at this point. But I believe this game here, under a touchdown with a team that's 3-0, we're going to be rooting for the Bucs. Winston's going to have to come through for me one more time.
I think he might. Hopefully there's no weather delay this week in Tampa
that
Bay.
was a little bizarre.
Final game in the NFL. Let's talk about the Monday night game between the Giants and the Vikings. Vikings, this line just keeps moving up. Vikings -5. It was -3.5 about a minute ago, as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
Giants, same thing this year as last year. Every game seemingly close. Last year, most of those went against them. This year, they've won 2 games by a combined 4 points. They lose by 2 points to the Redskins last week. And the Vikings, without their starting quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, without Adrian Peterson, just use defense and special teams to win week after week. And last year, 12 games, held the opponent to 20 points or less. Doing it again.
Right. It's called winning ugly.
Winning ugly.
And that's what they're doing. But if you're betting them, you're going to the cashier's window. And they're slowly starting to become this team that everyone is paying attention to. Last week, we got a lot of action, public action on the Vikings. I think that trend's going to continue until they start tearing up tickets. So
they're a scary team to bet against, aren't they?
They are. I mean, I wouldn't want to take the Giants right now with their somewhat inconsistency on performance on offense, and that's what people are going to be thinking.
Yeah.
When you think of Giants, you think of Eli's late game antics.
Super Bowl champion, horrible interception.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just inconsistent. And people, that they don't like betting inconsistencies.
No, sure don't. But, it's interesting. The Vikings, we're not used to seeing them as a favorite.
Right.
So it's one thing. Last year, they were 14-3 against the spread, were the Vikings. That's the best ATS mark in history, with the exception of the 2004 Chargers. But now, the reason that they were so good against the spread is because they were 3-point favorites or 3-point dogs. It was always something very tight. Now, all of a sudden, this is a new Minnesota Vikings, 5-point favorites. It's still Sam Bradford.
He's looked good.
Yeah.
I mean,
winning ugly, right?
Winning ugly. He's taking care of the ball. They've got a well-balanced attack, and their defense is dominant. It sounds like the Denver Broncos to me.
Well, true. Well, let's not get crazy. We'll see. All right. So hopefully that gives you some insight on your bets this weekend. You ready to answer some questions?
Yeah. Let's get to them.
In case you're wondering and you want to ask Jay a question, Jay is willing to answer everything. Social media, just put the hashtag behind the book, or just go to our Mirage Facebook page and ask directly, which a couple folks I have questions from right here have done. Let's go from a James Franklin, Jay.
James Franklin.
How do you determine home field advantage for college games, and is it different than pro teams? I guess what he means is, what numerical value do you attach to different home field advantages in the spread?
College really, kind of can be all over the map. You take the power rankings of the teams in consideration, and then, the home field advantage obviously for Michigan is going to be much, much different than, say, the Akron Zips. You're going to be, the environment, the influence, and then who the opponent coming in, too, also can tweak that a little bit here or there. But generally, everyone always says it's like 3 points home field advantage. But Michigan, it could be a 4.5 point home field advantage. And there's a few teams like that. The SEC, LSU at night is a big home field advantage. LSU on a noon game versus LSU at a night game, probably a half point to maybe a full point home field advantage difference.
Wow. The people of Akron hate you, by the way, Jay.
Well.
I just want you to know that. Christina Arrieta. I wonder if she's any relation to Jake Arrieta.
Yeah, it could be. If so, she's got to be having a banner year.
Yeah. She asks, she's talking about the NFL now, she asks, Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett, Jay, are both preparing for the Bills this week. How much will the over-under be affected by who starts at quarterback for the Patriots?
I think that's a great question, because two totally different styles I think that you would prepare for with those two quarterbacks. So if it's Brissett, you're probably looking maybe a little bit more of a run game, use his abilities to get out of the pocket. If it's Garoppolo, he looked great in the Arizona game.
Sure did.
He had a nice touch on the long balls, so you might see a little bit of higher total on that, because not going to be chewing up the clock as much. So who knows? But if Edelman comes in there, who knows what's going to happen?
Well,
that could really be a bizarre situation as well.
I'm glad you bring that up. I'll follow up to Christina's question. What if Bill Belichick waits till game time to decide on his starting quarterback? You're obviously not going to wait till game time to post the line, because it'll be over with.
Right.
So how do you go about that as a bookmaker? Do you wait for someone else to post it? Do you try to find some nugget of information that allows you to have some indication as to who's starting, and then post a line based on that? How does it work?
Yeah, what you'll do, in these situations is, we'll hold off, for injury report to be released on Thursday. We'll see what kind of participation the two guys went through, and you just go from there off the information that you have, and we'll get a status update. But at some point you got to put a number up and take a bet on it, and then, and that's what you're going to do. You're not going to wait until, there's no point in me putting up a number, at 9:30 on Sunday.
No, of course not.
I'm not going to take any money to it. So, we'll be making a decision probably in the next, 24 hours on that game. There'll be something up, when the planes start landing Friday afternoon and people are coming to town. They'll be able to get a bet on the Bills and the Patriots.
That's interesting, though, because we're doing this, midweek Thursday, but you're saying by Friday at some point, you're either a bookmaker or you're not. You're throwing something up.
Right, and then, you react to the market. If the market pushes the number a certain way, maybe they've got some information that I don't have, but you just sort of flow with it. I mean, putting the number up is a big component of what I do, but managing the risk is the more important part of it.
I see.
And once you have the number up, then you can manage the risk.
But am I right to say for the bettors out there that in this particular circumstance, there could be, let's say, an opportunity for bettors if the information sort of alters after you post it?
Absolutely. And I think you hit it on the head with the total, because the total has the opportunity to really be volatile here. If we think one way and we set the number thinking it's going to be Garoppolo, and then it comes, Brissett or Edelman, you're going to see that drop probably 4, maybe 5, 6 points, rather quickly.
Can you imagine if Edelman's the starting quarterback, how great that would be?
Oh, that would be a lot of fun.
So much fun. We'll see. Patriots game again, hosting the Bills. No line posted yet because we don't know who's playing quarterback at the time of this recording. Jay, willing to answer any of those questions each and every week, right?
Absolutely.
Anything within reason?
We'll figure it out.
Oh. Any questions you have, please do ask Jay on the Mirage Facebook page or anywhere on social media just by using the hashtag #BehindTheBook. For Jay Rude, the VP of MGM Resorts International Race and Sportsbook, I'm Gil Alexander, host of the Beating the Book podcast. Good luck with your college football bets this weekend and your Week 4 NFL bets. Hope we gave you some insight. Take care. Thanks for watching.